Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Welcome to the second episode of Cain Round Robin. I'm your host for the first segment. My name is Kobe. Today's episode, the variety, half hour, and the variety there is, my dear viewers. Tonight we seek to inform you with three wonderful segments. The first begin with a debate between two passionate critiques on which the superior genre, westerns or samurai films. We'll then turn your attention to an old urban legend involving two friendships, the friendship between two brilliant men, and a test tube. Lastly, but certainly not least, we'll be heading to a place many of you are familiar with and testing the knowledge of any and all participants we can find there. This and so much more on the variety, half hour. The first segment, genre versus genre, a segment where we debate on which of the two genres are the best. Tonight we are joined by a distinguished guest, Mr. David. The two of us will debate over which the superior movie genre, westerns or samurai films, West versus East, gun versus blade, fedora versus top knot. The two of us debaters will have roughly 2 minutes, if we need them, to argue our point. Being the fair host I am, I have our guest, Mr. David, have the first word. Mr. David, 2 minutes starting now.
Thank you, Mr. Kobe. The Shambara, or samurai genre, is more transformative. There have been several instances where the Western directors of Western films and directors from Western countries have plucked entire premises from samurai films and adapted them as Westerns. For example, Akira Kurosawa films such as The Magnificent Seven, which adapts the Seven Samurai, or Fistful of Dollars, which adapts Yowanbo, The Magnificent Seven being a more mainstream Hollywood example. Outside of the Western genre, you have plenty of popular films influenced by Japanese sources, like The Matrix or even Star Wars. But that's another debate for another day. The modern Western genre owes its existence to the samurai epics.
Gotta admit, that's true. That's very true.
True it is. Furthermore, the samurai films, in terms of choreography, are often more dynamic. The elegant swinging of the blades between the masters of the sword, and I feel, is much more appealing to watch than two gunsliders shooting blanks at each other. Even though it's all fake in the end, there is still a more contact between actors in a sword battle that makes it more visceral, more real. You know what? Even though it's all scripted, there's something actually happening. And because there's something real going on, the action feels a lot more like action. No offense to the cowboy crowd, but running and gunning isn't as intense as hacking and slashing. At least that's how I feel when it comes to watching samurai films. I fully admit that there may be a minority there.
Interesting point. How the Western genre owes its existence to samurai films. However, I think you can say that for samurai films, it was an American influence after World War II that led to the rise of Japanese film industry, so the rise of samurai films. Directors like Kurosawa were influenced by, well, what do you know, Westerns, the lone hero of heroes, coming to right wrongs and stop evil men in direct rip from the Western genre. As far as Western films, adapting samurai films, I think those adaptations are often improvements on the original. Taking their ideas and fleshing them out, Fistful of Dollars, for example. The relationship between the characters in that film, the way they play off each other, and the introduction of our main villains, I feel it's done much better than Yojimbo. You might call this personal preference, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but there is something about Clint Eastwood's performance in Fistful of Dollars that puts him above Toshiro Mifune. May he rest in peace. Both are brilliant actors, though.
Yes, they were. I guess the two of us can agree on something after all.
I know, shocking, isn't it? In the end, however, it's always up to personal preference. If we both find joy in something different, then it's no harm done. Mr. David, I think it's just about that time. Any closing remarks before we break for public service announcements, yes? I 100% agree with you on it. And being personal preference, I also agree with you that we should ultimately enjoy whatever genre we want to enjoy, whether it be cowboy flicks, samurai flicks, first-person shooters, fantasy novels, sci-fi novels, Whatever. There we go, agreeing with each other again. What kind of debate is this? The fun kind of Mr. David, the fun kind. I want to thank you once again for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to talk. This has been a fun discussion. I still find cowboy films are a bit better, but thank you.
Thank you, Kobe. You've been a wonderful host. Always a pleasure. And hey, you never know, maybe I'll talk to you maybe I'll talk some sense into you next time, in the next debate.
Of course. And that's it for our genre versus genre, folks. We hope you enjoyed what we had to offer. But wait, don't go anywhere. I'll be handing out our next segment very soon, Twisted History. You won't want to miss it. It's coming up right after this public service announcement. Stay tuned.
What are you doing in there?
What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Twisted History. I'm your host, Kobe, and I've got a story to tell you for this evening. I guarantee you, my dear viewers, that today's talentized tale of friendship will leave you all absolutely breathless. At its heart, this is a story of two friends, Thomas Edison and Henry Ford. You may have heard numerously Edison, the man behind inventions such as the light bulb and phonography, inventions which may have stolen, but we're not here to argue that. And Henry Ford, the inventor of most Model T, the world's first affordable, see what I did there, mass-produced automobile. Ford has some questionable views, but again, not here to argue that. The two men were massively influential. Edison being a revolutionary inventor responsible for its introduction in electrical appliances to the lives of everyday people, and Ford, a genius industrialist responsible for changing the landscape in industrialism and travel by creating and assembling line process to mass production cheap automobiles that could be made quickly. They were basically the rock stars of their day. Let's begin with some backstory. That's always important. Gotta have bread if you want to make some toast. After all, Thomas Alva Edison was born on February 11, 1847, in a small village of Millen, Ohio. When I say small, I do mean small. Currently, Milan only has a population of just over 13,000 people. He was the youngest of 7 children. Knowing what Edison would go on to contribute later on in life, I guess 7 really was a lucky number for a family. Edison grew up in Port Huron, Michigan. He never had much from formal school, only having gone to school for a few months, at most a child and a chemistry course he enrolled in later during the early stages of his career. His mother, a former school teacher, was responsible for most of his education, teaching him how to read, write, and as well as mathematics. Edison had an appetite for knowledge at a young age, fascinated by books, gizmos, creating his own experience at home. Boy basically destined to be an inventor. Ford time. Henry Ford was born July 30th, 1863, the former township of Spring Wells, Michigan. Former because it doesn't exist anymore. The land it was on now cities and the city of Detroit, indeed born. He was one of the 6 children born on a farm. Ford expressed his interest in machine parts at a young age, often taking apart and putting together a pocket which his father had bought him as a present. Like Edison, he didn't have much formal schooling, only going up to 8th grade before dropping out. He worked as an apprentice for a number of years before becoming an engineer, working and creating prototype cars in his private workshop and rising up the ranks as an engineer for Edison Illuminati Company of Detroit. The two men finally met in 1896 and remained friends for the rest of their lives. Even before having that, Ford idolized Edison, viewing him as a sort of a mentor figure, a real childhood hero. Edison encouraged Ford to continue developing the Model T. Edison had the feeling that there was a future for automobiles. Ford took Edison's advice and continued his innovations. Ford also managed to gain a friendship in Edison, who viewed him as a brilliant young man. Edison and Ford spent a lot of leisure time with each other. For example, the two took quite a couple of vacations around the nation. They even owned a winter vacation home in Florida, right next to each other even. Kind of weird, but I've seen weirder. They bought each other gifts and took group road trips around the country with their other rich friends, tire maker Harvey Firestone and naturalist John Burroughs. Collectively, the four of them were known as the Four Vagabonds. Pretty cool name, if I do say so myself. You get anything from the long summary, understand that Edison and Ford were real ride or dies, as the children say. Considering Ford is the inventor of the modern automobile, that joke is extremely funny. Feel free to laugh in front of your TV sets, wherever you're watching this from. So we've gone over the friendship between these two men. Very positive. It doesn't seem cheery for too much longer though, folks. Now then, shall we continue? Later in his life, Edison battled with a severe case of type 2 diabetes. Fun fact, well, not really fun, but a fact, Edison attempted to change his eating habits in order to combat this diabetes. How did it go for him attempting this? Well, restricting himself from a diet of a pint of milk a day and cigars, kind of counterintuitive, sort of like fighting diabetes with cancer, but whatever. Try however you may, though, Edison could not beat the Reaper. He finally succumbed to the disease on October 18, 1931, in his West Orange, New Jersey home surrounded by his 6 children. But that story doesn't end there. Ford, being a close friend of Edison for 30 years at this point, was in close contact with Edison and his family in the days leading up to Edison's death. This is where the history lesson gets weird. Legend has it that in order to have a memento of his close friends and mentors, Ford had Edison's son, Charles, seal up his father's last breaths in a tube. The tube was then sent to Ford, who held onto it until his death in 1947. It was found in Ford's home amongst his numerous belongings and placed on a display on Henry Ford's museum. The Henry Ford Museum is where you can find many objects of historical significance, such as President John F. Kennedy's President Museum that he was assassinated on. The bus Rosa Parks sat in when she refused to get up, and the chair Abraham Lincoln was sitting on where he got assassinated in Ford's Theater. No relation to our very own Ford. Now, it's never been verified whether or not the test tube actually contains Edison's last breath. It's just kind of neat urban legend that people talk about, like the Jersey Devil or Mothman or the Loch Ness Monster. How would you go about testing the tube anyways? I mean, you could probably test it for saliva or something, or other, I don't know, scientists, but I have been your host, and this has been A Twisted History. Join us next time as we discuss the story of Christopher Columbus and the manatee history, Worst Catfish. Stay curious, my dear viewers. Stay curious.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Hello, welcome to our third segment, Cain Quiz. I'm your host with the most, and today we're here in beautiful Cain University, where I'll be asking some questions of people and seeing how much knowledge they have. This ought to be fun. Hello.
Hi.
Would you mind answering a couple questions for us? We're doing a program for Cain TV.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, could you name at least 3 of the 4 campuses?
Okay, so there's the one in Union, Sky, yeah.
Clock is ticking.
I didn't know it was timed. Okay, and Ocean Campus.
Correctamundo, you are right. All right, question number 2. True or false? Most psychology courses are taken at the Center for Academic Success.
That is false.
Correct. Okay, question 3. Could you name for us the 2 colors that make up Kane's color scheme?
Okay, yeah. White and blue.
Correct. 4. In what year was Kane's China campus founded?
2015.
You are wrong. It's actually 2012. Almost. Okay. True or false? President Repollet earned a master's in administration at Cain University.
I'm gonna go with true.
You would be right. Okay, next question. In what year was Cain College designated a university?
Was it 1997?
You would be correct. Okay, final question. How do you feel about Cain University? Do you love it, really love it, super love it, all of the above?
I guess all of the above.
You would be correct. You have no choice but to love Cain, of course. Okay, question 1. Can you name at least 3 of the 4 Cain campuses?
Wenzhou, Ocean, Union, like the main one, and Skylands.
You got it.
Yeah.
That's good. True or false? Most of the psychology courses are taken at the Center for Academic Success.
False.
That is correct. Can you name the 2 colors that make up Kane's color scheme? You see it everywhere.
I know. It's like a dark blue and white.
That is correct.
Okay.
Question 4. In what year was Kane's Wenzhou, China campus opened?
Oh, I don't know. I forgot.
It's 2012.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
Now you do. Can you name Cain University's current president?
Dr. Lamont Repollet.
Oh, you went above and beyond with the doctor. That's correct. Next question. Can you name a figure in our nation's history that lived in the Liberty Hall mansion?
No.
Okay, here's one. Thomas Jefferson. He was one of our presidents. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Or false? President Repollet earned a master's degree in administration here at Cain University.
True.
You would be correct. In what year was Cain University designated a university? 2005, 1964, or 1997?
1997.
Correct. Last question. How do you feel about Cain University?
I thought you recorded already. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I really love the campus. I've always been a Kean girl. You can definitely say I'm a cougar because I'm very active and heavily involved on campus. I love my professors. I love my classes. And overall, it's just been a really great and welcoming experience for me. And I can definitely say I'm a cougar girl.
Somehow I get the feeling you like Cain University.
Yeah, just a bit.
Okay, and that's a wrap for both this segment and this episode. Thank you to our viewers for tuning in and our participants for participating. And we'll see you next time on the Cain Variety Half Hour. Peace.